Hey everybody, happy Paul McCartney Egypt Station release day. I just finished listening to this all the way through. I listened to it all the way through 2 times, so I just finished my second listen. So I'm going to give you just my initial reaction to this new Paul McCartney album. First things first, if you saw my earlier video from today, I went out this morning and picked this up. I got it actually from Barnes & Noble. And I got the, might as well show it off while I got here. I got the red vinyl, which is pretty cool. And I guess this is exclusive to Barnes & Noble. I don't really care about colored vinyl all that much, to be honest with you, but it's cool that this is red, so sounds good to me. Okay, my first initial feelings on Paul McCartney's Egypt Station. I will say that I am pleasantly surprised. I think overall, it's a really, really good album. Let me say the positive things first that I feel about this. Positive things. The sound quality of this, just sonically, is really, really great. A friend of mine, Zeke, we were texting back and forth as he was listening and I was listening, and he commented that the drums sound really, really good, and I totally agree. The drums on this album are excellent. Just the sound quality of them is just really, really cool. Same with the bass. Also the acoustic guitars. The acoustic guitars, Paul McCartney always has really nice, crisp acoustic guitar sound, especially on like Flaming Pie, the McCartney album, obviously. He's always had a really nice acoustic sound, and the same goes for Egypt Station. The acoustic guitars on this are just really, really good. Another thing for me is that on this record, there's one song on here that really blew me away, and I really love it a whole lot, and it's a song called Dominoes. And it's the first song on side C, so the second record, first song. That song floored me when I first heard it. It's just the chord changes, the melody, it's just excellent song. So I was really happy to hear that song. That song alone makes it worth buying the record for me. That being said, I still feel the same way about the 3 songs that Paul released prior to releasing the full album, and those 3 songs were I Don't Know, Come On To Me, and For You. I will say that I Don't Know has definitely grown on me, and I actually do like that song now. It's definitely not, to me, one of the best songs I've ever heard in my life, or one of the best songs Paul's ever written, but it's a good song, and it's got some catchy bits in it that I didn't pick up upon first listen that I do appreciate now. And I think it really works well on the record. I love that it opens up the record after the intro, of course. I think it's kind of cool, kind of a bold statement to open up with a slow kind of ballad like I Don't Know. So my opinion of that song has definitely kind of changed. Not drastically, but just a little bit. I will say that Come On To Me, I don't dislike it as much as I did when I first heard it. I still don't like it all that much. I guess it's okay as like an album track, but I was actually talking to someone on my Instagram who was asking me what my early opinion was of this record, and he doesn't like Come On To Me, and I was thinking, it would have been a good like bonus track, kind of like, on Memory Almost Full, when Paul had that song Nod Your Head, which was at the very end of the album, just kind of a extra bit of whatever. And it's like just kind of a nothing song, just kind of fun. To me, that's the same with like Come On To Me. I don't think it should be a single. It was, and obviously Paul thought there was something in that song that was just appealing, and he thought it would be cool, whatever. But just for me, it doesn't really work. But as a bonus track, it would have been a cool addition. And then the song For You, it still doesn't really do it for me. It's definitely within the album, I guess it's a little bit better than it was when I just heard it on its own, but it's just not all that great for me. It doesn't really do much for me. I'm not into that style of pop or whatever. Also, it just sticks out on this album as it doesn't feel like it's a part of it at all. And there's a reason for that, because it's produced by someone different. It's the only track produced by another person. It's also co-written by that producer with Paul. So it's kind of just a weird track in general. And with that one, I was talking to the same person I was talking on Instagram, and I was saying that that song to me should have been saved for like a video game. Kind of like with that song he had, Hope for the Future. He released it just on that video game, and it's fine within that context. It's a cool, whatever, like futuristic, kind of modern sounding song. Same with Fuh You. It would have been a good one to save for something like that. That being said, he's Paul McCartney. He can do whatever he wants. He knows what's right. So this is my opinion. So those three songs I've covered, and you know, that's my feelings on those songs. They kind of have stayed the same. But I will go down the list here of the rest of the songs on the album, which I was actually pleasantly surprised about. Almost all of the other ones besides those three I really liked a whole lot. And they really had that Paul McCartney magic that you're just so used to hearing. Also, let me just say this. Whatever my feelings of this album or your feelings of the album, you can't deny that when Paul McCartney puts out a new album, it's exciting. Like I woke up this morning, or actually last night before I went to bed, I was excited to like wake up and go out and get this and listen to it for the first time. There's just something exciting about that. And for those of us who are too young to have experienced the Beatles when they were actually releasing albums, it's the closest we'll ever get to knowing what it's like to listen to some new Beatle music on an actual release day. So there is something really special about when Paul McCartney releases a new album. So the fact that he's 76, I think that's right, and he just released a brand new record and we all get to sit and enjoy it and talk about it, I think that's just fantastic. So I just wanted to throw that in there before I start bashing things or whatever. I'm actually not going to bash because I genuinely like this album a lot. Okay, so here we go, track by track. I'm not even going to talk about Opening Station because it's in the title. Already talked about I Don't Know, already talked about Come On To Me. So the first song that we hadn't heard yet, Happy With You, I like it. It's very good. It's a very kind of typical acoustic McCartney ballad. And lyrically, I would say it's probably one of the most adventurous songs lyrically for Paul on this record. He's talking about how, you know, he used to smoke, used to drink too much, all that kind of stuff. A lot of people have talked about that already. But I do like it as a song. I think it's a fine track, and definitely worthy of being on the album. Next song, Who Cares, is fantastic. A really excellent song. And I guess Paul was saying, I listened to the Mark Maron WTF podcast, and Paul McCartney was on there. That's the latest one, and he was talking about this song and saying how he's talking about it's about bullying, which is kind of interesting and very modern of Paul to talk about because that's such a modern, like cyberbullying. It's such a modern concept. So, but besides all that, it's just a very good song. Up next was Fuh You, which I've already talked about. Next is Confidant, and I like this song, and Paul talked about this one as well on that podcast, and he was saying it's about his acoustic guitar. And he was saying, like, back in the day, that used to be his way of expressing himself, and he would just tell everything to his guitar. Basically, you know, like writing songs through the guitar. He was, you know, getting rid of all of his emotions and whatever. So that was a very interesting concept to write a song about your guitar and to treat it as a confidant. And I really do like this song. Excellent tune on here. People Want Peace. To me, it's an okay song. It's a little bit kind of clunky in the lyrical department for me. The sentiment is fantastic. Obviously, people do want peace. That's a very strong message, and I do like that a lot. But it kind of reminded me a little bit, just the overall vibe of it, of a song that would have been on Paul McCartney's, what's that album? Off the Ground. Like the song, Come On People, kind of has that vibe, you know, of like, hey, human togetherness, come on, we can do it. That kind of thing. And to me, that kind of falls a little short for me. Next song, Hand in Hand. Another song that's just okay. Nothing really stuck out to me that it didn't blow me away, but it wasn't bad at all. I think it's one of those ones I'm going to have to hear a little bit more to really appreciate it. Next song, like I said earlier, my favorite song on the record, Dominoes. This song, as I said earlier, but I'll say it again, it just really blew me away. The first chord you hear, it really just struck me as like, wow, this is different. This is something different as far as like musically, something different than Paul's ever done. It's just so melodic. I love the words. I love the melody. I love all the instrumentation, the production. Hands down my favorite song. So Dominoes is definitely worth checking out. Back in Brazil starts out a little bit kind of clunky for me, but then it gets really, really good. The interesting thing about this song, Back in Brazil, is there's a Paul McCartney bootleg of like a sound check he did, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 years ago. And he plays an early version of this song, which is kind of interesting. And he's just like goofing around. Anyway, Back in Brazil is pretty good. Do It Now, I like a whole lot. I like just the overall flavor of the song, and I love what he's saying in that song, like don't wait to do something, or don't wait to tell someone you care about them, just do it now. That's very powerful, and lyrically I think he really did a good job on that one. Caesar Rock is a cool little wordplay of She's a Rock, and I do like that song a lot as well. So I have to say that my favorite side, hands down, of the record is side C, those 4 songs, Dominoes, Back in Brazil, Do It Now, and Caesar Rock. Those are just excellent, excellent tunes that I would stack up against anything Paul's ever put out. They're just really, really solid songs. And they saved the album for me, personally. Loved them. Now, the last side, side D, starts with Despite Repeated Warnings. And this is the, it's a very long song, kind of linked together, a la the second side of Abbey Road, the long medley on Red Rose Speedway. Paul is known to do these kind of medleys, and he does it again here, and I think it's excellent. I love what he's saying. I would imagine he's talking about political leaders, but who knows? I don't want to get too political on here, but as far as just this overall song, I did like it a whole lot. All the movements are really cool, and just an excellent job. And I love that he's still into that idea of having a medley of tunes or a long song. So I think that's great. And then there's Station 2, which is just basically the same as opening station. And then Hunt You Down, Naked, and Sea Link, which is the last tracks, I guess, on the record. Pretty good. I definitely don't think, I think it gets better and better as the song goes along. And overall, it's an okay song. But again, I think I have to hear it again to really appreciate it. So that's the whole record. And yeah, I did enjoy it. And I have to say I was pleasantly surprised. I think because of the 3 singles he released, I was really, really worried, probably like a lot of you, that they were all going to sound kind of like that. But of course, they don't all sound like that, which is great. And I just think it's a solid effort from Paul McCartney. I mean, he's 76 years old, and I think he really delivered a really, really good album. And I do appreciate that he made it an album. It works as a whole piece. And I think that's really important to think about when you're listening to this. Maybe you haven't listened to this yet and you're about to go into it. Go into it thinking of it as one whole piece, like you would go listening to Pet Sounds or Sgt. Pepper or Abbey Road. All those albums that we love as albums, this should be treated that way, in my opinion. And I think the big error he made, if I'm allowed to say he made an error, is I think him releasing those 3 songs ahead of this album kind of got people thinking like, oh, okay, so he's just going to release an album full of individual songs that don't really add up. When in fact, he's even talked about it, like on Jimmy Fallon, he was saying, which was on last night, by the way, which I recommend watching, Jimmy Fallon with Paul McCartney. He was saying, though, that this is definitely an album, and he set out to make an actual album that people used to listen to, back in the 60s. You listened to it from start to finish. And I think in a way he kind of shot himself in the foot by putting out those 3 songs instead of just putting out the album. Because let's face it, today, nowadays, in my opinion, nowadays, there are no, well, there's a lot of singles, but you don't really need to put out a single if you're Paul McCartney. People are going to go out and buy this no matter what because you're Paul McCartney. So if you just would have put this out as just the album, I think it would have gone down a lot better, in my opinion. Because it is a really solid album. Now, if I have to give this a rating of from 1 to 10 on my very first listen, I'd give it a solid 7. And maybe that'll change. Maybe it'll go up. Maybe it'll go down in the next couple of weeks. I don't know. But as of now, it's a solid 7 for me. I really enjoy it. I'm going to listen to it again and again. When my girlfriend gets home from work, we're going to listen to it all the way through. And yeah, I'm just excited that Paul McCartney put out a new album. And I think it's definitely very good. So love to hear what all of you think. And that's it for now. So Paul McCartney, Egypt Station. Check out the song Dominoes because it is fantastic. All right, that's it for now. Here's my creepy thumb. Goodbye.